Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Literary Lore. Today we've got a shorter poem with a big and simple message. O Me, O Life is one of the many incredible works of Walt Whitman. You see, like The Road Not Taken, this poem makes an appearance in the Dead Poets Society. The poem is in the description. Let's talk a bit about Walt Whitman. Whitman is regarded as one of the greatest American poets of all time. He is sometimes referred to as the father of free verse. Free verse is a style of poetry where the lines written do not have a specific rhyme scheme or meter they have to follow. Free verse allows the poet to choose a more natural flow or emphasize an irregular beat. It is hard for me to dedicate only a few paragraphs to Whitman's legacy. Leaves of Grass, his magnum opus, is still one of the most influential works in American literature. But instead of focusing on his accolades, which I'm sure I'll be revisiting in a later episode, here's a quick rundown of his life. Born in 1819 in New York, Whitman grew up in a young America. One of his earliest memories was meeting Lafayette. And during this era, it was common for kids to stop their schooling and get a job. At 11, he began his work as an office boy, and later, he became a printer's devil. Now, I bring this up because putting printer's devil on your resume would have been really cool. It was basically just mixing the ink and setting the printing press's tiles. Over the years, he took a variety of jobs connected to writing and even spent some time as a teacher. He worked as a freelance writer, but found that his political leanings would sometimes get in the way. You see, back then, the Democratic Party was split between the barn burners and the hunkers. And barn burners, oh my gosh, what a great name for a political faction. You have a printing devil that's a barn burner. Come on, how is that not a thing we can bring back? Whitman was a barn burner, and even worse than that, he was woke. Indeed, he was very vocal about being anti-slavery, which back then still had some opponents. Yes, the barn burners' whole platform was, I think people should be equal, which shouldn't be a controversial topic, it shouldn't be a controversial idea, but you know, that's how things go. And I will point out that even Whitman himself wasn't exactly the most progressive person. It was the most like baseline, I just think people should be equal kind of thing. I don't like slavery. He still had plenty of backwards ideas, things that were definitely of the time. Now, again, as a writer, he released Leaves of Grass. He had worked really hard on it. He actually works on it throughout his entire life. He keeps adding to it and editing it. But Leaves of Grass, when it was first released, was criticized for sexual themes. And of course, think about the poem we covered last week. That's not too bad. It could be much worse. His work was relatively tame. But like I said, he was part of a young America, so he experienced the Civil War. During the Civil War, instead of fighting, he continued writing and suffered a great deal. If there's interest in that, I'll go more in depth about it for a later episode. But we'll just stop there and we'll just say that his archaic views in some regards and his progressive ideals in the same way, those created an internal contradiction, and it plays out in his work very well. So I spent a decent amount of time on Walt Whitman's life. Let's actually look at this relatively short poem. O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself, forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I, and who more faithless? So I'm breaking up the poem into about 4 pieces for digestibility. As you can see here, the speaker is despairing. He's in the midst of an existential crisis, looking at a society where people either have no faith or are fools. But he isn't criticizing and looking down on those people. He notes, by his own assessment, he is the most faithless fool of them all. He's just as hopeless and lost. He doesn't know what to do with his life, which again, looking back at everything that he's gone through, he's bounced from job to job. He's been a struggling writer all this time. He tried being a teacher, that didn't work out. He tried being a printer, that didn't work out. He tried poetry, it didn't work out. So he might be having a bit of an existential crisis. Of eyes that vainly crave the light, of the objects mean, of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plodding and sordid crowds I see around me. He yearns for enlightenment, but is occupied with a desire for meaningless things. It's an eternal struggle, pulled between lofty ideals and basic vanity. everyone he sees is just as miserable as him, wishing for more and pursuing blindly, slowly, meanderingly, of the empty and useless years of the rest, with the rest me intertwined. The question, oh me, so sad recurring, what good amid these, oh me, oh life? He feels as though he's wasted so much of his life, and he wrestles with his own existence. He questions himself. He laments himself. He questions what the point of it all is. Now here's where his free verse style really shines. Because we've sat in on a man struggling with the value of his own existence. He is a mote in the stream of life, drifting without direction. What is his value? What is the point? Answer: that you are here. That life exists, an identity. That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. When read all together, the previous lines feel like someone in the middle of the night struggling to sleep as they slowly spiral. But here we have a response. A breath in the form of the answer. A pause to recollect and take all the anxiety of the speaker into account. The point is that you have breath in your lungs. Your existence in itself is significant from a sheer probability perspective. You have a unique perspective that no one else can truly have. Yes, we are a small part of a greater whole, but that's part of the beauty. The powerful play that is the entirety of humanity's existence includes you. You contribute a verse, an eternal print left on the tapestry of time. Is it grandiose? Yes, definitely. But it's encouraging. We can meander along like every other fool, or we can try to write the best verse we can contribute. You can be a discordant, destructive note, or you can try to leave behind something beautiful. It doesn't mean your verse will be sung again and again, but the fact that it exists and will influence the verses to come is important. This is where the concept of carpe diem comes in. Seize the day. It's not just my sign-off. It's the idea that you have to make the most of every moment, have a story to tell. You live. A few years back, there was a trite thing called YOLO, the idea that you only live once. Whitman would disagree. He would say YODO, you only die once. You should live every day. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be taking the next week off, but we'll return with a visit to one of Edgar Allan Poe's works. Yes, we're going back to Poe. It's our first repeat guy. Feel free to share this with your friends and leave your impressions below. Until next time, I'm going to go enjoy Valentine's Day with my wife, and as you know, carpe diem.